Welcome to another week of the Northeast Offshore Fishing Reports, brought to you by SiriusXM Marine. I'm Jimmy Fee. I've got Anthony DeCicci. I think last week we said we would have some fresh in-person reports.
Bill.
And we did not. Fortune favors the bold. We saw some great-looking water out there pretty much south of Nantucket. We were looking at the SiriusXM Marine, trying to plan a trip. Ultimately, it fell apart. Just ended up albie fishing this week. But saw kind of a finger of really warm water poking into that cold water. There's got to be better ways to say that. But really severe temperature break. And we were eyeing it up thinking, wahoo, white marlin, some really cool stuff.
Andy said it looked like E.T.'s finger.
It kind of did.
It did.
It did. Like, I'll be right here.
Yeah, exactly.
But
that was the move. We should have done that. We
shoulda, coulda, woulda, but somebody did. Matt Fronius, good friend of yours.
Yeah.
I know he's a good friend of On the Waters. Tell us what his report was.
Yes.
He went there on Thursday.
So basically, I mean, that water ended up kind of kicking in a little southeast of the southeast corner of the dump. And, we were all talking about going south, and then we saw that and we were like, oh, we should do this. And then next thing you know, his last call to me was that he was going to go south. He was looking for a report, and he goes, hey, I called an audible. I'm going to hit this warm water finger that spun in. It looks pretty sharp on both edges and real tight. I'm like, dude, we wanted to do the same thing. So I was content knowing that he'd go check that out, and he was rewarded. He got 3 nice yellowfin. One he dropped just under the boat before he could get a gaff to it, but boated 2 really nice yellowfin. He had his son out there, Parker, and I almost made the call to bring Anthony out with them. We've been dying to get out and do the kids out offshore side of things. Parker had a blast with a bunch of, they put like around 20 mahi. Got the invite for mahi fish tacos tonight over at Frone's house. So that was kind of his day. He raised a white marlin, a little bit of everything, kind of what you'd expect. Raised a white marlin. It popped like 3 clips, ate a shoot with meat on it right off the transom corner, and came tight for like 10 seconds until it jumped. And
so Joe shoots with a ballyhoo on the back.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of a weighted skirted
It wasn't
teaser.
a hot dog, Jim.
Yeah. Well, I'm just explaining that.
Yeah. So anyways,
for the offshore layman.
Then the most exciting part of his day, or at least it would have been for me, was he had a bar completely trashed. And just the way that bite kind of happened, he was thinking wahoo. And my first thought was, sure it wasn't a mako? And he goes, no, I saw it. It was fast. And there was about 6 boats out there fishing, and within just a few minutes from when that happened to him, 2 other boats got bit off too, which definitely screams wahoo.
So a few years ago, Chris Megan went out with Dr. John Pilcher, and who was kind of a big offshore guy out of Falmouth.
That shoot blew my mind.
And they went out targeting wahoo. That was the whole plan, is they were going to go out, they were going to troll deep divers on wire, look for wahoo, and they saw something similar to those conditions that we saw, where you had like the warm water pushing into the cold water and further east. So south of Nantucket.
We messed up. We should have gone.
This water was east of the dump, kind of southeast of the dump. But Andy Nebreski, who went out to Atlantis Canyon, and then I think they went through that on the way back on Thursday looking for it, and it had already broken up or the wind had messed it up. So it hadn't lasted that long. It was just there long enough for the brief weather window we had this week was really only Wednesday, Thursday. If you were looking to get out from New England, I know the big battle wagons down south fishing the mid-Atlantic, they fished every day this week. But for the smaller boats looking to get to the mid-shore light tackle stuff, Wednesday and Thursday were your days. The guys who went out did okay. It wasn't a great week of fishing, at least if we're talking inshore stuff. In
up here, I mean, it was a challenging week. The sea surface temperature charts were very spotty just to even get a look at what's going on with the water. So you couldn't string a couple days together to kind of see which direction, juicy looking water was moving. And it was very chunky. It was very broken up. That was the best edge that we saw. There was a really good one at West Atlantis that Andy joined Larry Backman from Skipjack to go and hit, and they had a really slow trip. They got some mahi, that was it. They moved down to the Weather Buoy Canyon, and it was pretty much lifeless on everything that you go out there for.
If I had to sum up this week's offshore report, in one sentence, it would be in 3 words, it would be Mahi Consolation Prize. So many boats came back to the dock and were like, well, at least we got some Mahi. And it was just that kind of week where you have a couple days of bad weather.
Yep.
The fish either get scattered, the water gets scattered, or you don't know where the fish are. You've got to put the pieces back together.
Put the pieces of the puzzle
That's the toughest
together.
thing about this time of year. Right now, we're sitting here on Friday, August 25th. We've got another storm of hurricanes coming up the coast, and we've been lucky this year where we haven't had any of that. And then here comes old Franklin. It's going to come up and mix things up on Tuesday. Yeah, so we're getting into that hurricane season, and at some point in July, captains were saying, they've been out tuna fishing 10 days in a row. Like, we had some incredible weather through the summer. And the last couple of weeks has been a little bit tougher getting out there. You get those more narrow windows this time of year. Hopefully we get lucky, get some more windows coming up, because some of the best fishing, offshore fishing, the whole season's ahead. I mean, Andy Dobreski just went out there in the canyons. We said they had a slow report. Whole fleet reported slow fishing.
Yep.
And last year we were out with Captain Joe Huckmeyer. We were on the Helen H. And he said that this time of year, a lot of the better fishing in these New England canyons is further east. He says you get into September and into the fall, those fish start moving west and further west and further west. So when the Helen H, this is the time of year that the head boats, the tuna fishing's good enough that the head boats can go out there with a reasonable chance of putting putting 20 people on board on a fish. So they start running their trips in late summer, early fall. And
so you're saying the fishing starts to be really good in the east and then starts to move west?
So that's what the Helen H does. Is Captain Joe, he will start fishing further east. Like he'll run to, I don't know if he'll ever go to Lidonia or that far east, but I know he does oceanographers. I know he does hydro. But he'll start fishing them, and then as the fishing moves west, he said it gets better to the west. Last year, we were on one of his final trips, and we went southwest to Hudson Canyon.
Yeah.
150 miles. So even though the fishing's a little bit slow, say in Atlantis and Beach right now, heard there's better fishing to the east, and as we get through the fall, we get these storms, things are going to mix up, those fish will start moving west. The best canyon fishing of the season is still ahead of us.
That might be the next time I get out the way I'm going. It's been 19 days, but who's counting? Fish for 19 days. It's terrible.
Well, I was out yesterday albie fishing and found some very finicky albies. It was a calm day, beautiful conditions. Would have been a great day to run offshore if we hadn't pulled the plug on that. But today, stormier conditions, heard the guys out there, like their albies are eating the paint off the bottom of their boats. Like it's so good. But speaking of false albacore, I know we don't want to talk too much about them on the offshore report. A lot of guys heading south kind of ran into nuisance albies out on the tuna grounds.
It's funny how it turns over inshore. It's like, albies are everything.
I don't know how far into the run they become a nuisance. I'd say once you're 30 miles off.
Once you're targeting tuna.
Yeah.
Once you're targeting like tuna and pelagics, albies are a nuisance. But when you're targeting anything inshore and you encounter albies, it's the holy grail of the fall run.
So like that area, the Suffolk, Tuna Ridge,
let's dig into that a little bit. I mean, we've been talking about how good that's been,
but yeah,
at every window. So
that's where all the albies are.
That's what we were kind of starting to assume, that we were going to go back and get on Wednesday, which moved to Thursday, which moved to Bill altogether, because it was kind of an uninspiring, Wednesday, and then Thursday was a little bit of the same. Some guys had some success in pockets. On Wednesday, it seemed like you really grinded it out, fishing the life for a bite or two. You talked to several people that came back with a yellowfin or, got a fish, but no numbers for the most part. And then going into planning on Thursday, I talked to Joe D'Agostino from Joe Bags Tackle, and he was like, I'm going. I don't care what's been going on out there. My game plan is going to be... I'm just going to roll around from life to life and throw poppers. I think this is the time of year that you're going to see surface feeds. I heard of some real small bluefin on Cox's. He went 3 for 4. I'll kind of give a real detailed report on that. Actually, you know what? Let's just jump right in to that on this week's episode or rendition of the Facebook report. So jumping right into this week's Facebook report, Joe D'Agostino report, We started the day knowing it was going to be tough to get tight with the recent high pressure system setting up. Arrived at Tuna Ridge at first light with the intentions of finding life. No life. Cruised southeast to Suffolk where whales and dolphins were actively feeding all morning, but the water temps were only 66 to 68 degrees. That's been a big deal. Interjecting in that area is finding the warmer water. So with no fish at 8 a.m., we steamed south to the dump and realized it was the same situation. At this point, we had 0 fish and 0 hits, and it was already 9 a.m. We moved northwest and found blue water in the 69 to 70 degree temperature range and were surrounded by dolphins. We started working the pods and went 2 for 3 on yellows to 50 pounds. I had to be home by 4 p.m., so at 11:30, we started making our way in back past Tuna Ridge and found one last pod of dolphins that gave up one bigger yellow upwards of 70 pounds. So on the day they went 3 for 4 on yellows.
That's a pretty good make the report situation, and that's
He called
a good
the shot. He totally called the shot. He's like, "That's my plan. I'm going to hop around from life to life and see if I can get yellows on the poppers."
That
and
is a situation too where like you would love to be out there and have like the SiriusXM fish mapping to get that updated. Like you can see while you're out there. Here is where that water temperature is. That's the advantage that type of
service provides for
exactly.
sure. You know,
but dude, yellowfin aren't afraid of mid 60 degree water temperatures.
No,
but a temperature drop, a severe drop, will kind of push them out. You and I dealt with that a couple years ago. We did a fall canyon trip on a headboat out in New Jersey, and it had been lights out fishing, incredible action. We were there. We were the first trip after the storm.
Kiss of death.
And it had been 68, 69 degrees, and they were coming, boat limits of headboat limits of yellowfin.
100 fish trips.
So we get out there, and as soon as we get to the grounds, the captain, I think one of the mates said, "Oh man, the water temperature dropped 7 degrees," and that just flushed all the yellowfin out of there. One guy got a bluefin. That was a tough trip. But yeah, those severe temperature drops. Like yellowfin don't mind water temperatures in the mid 60s. Like you'll see that through the fall as long as it's consistent. But a sharp drop like that, we had that north wind push around the water. So finding those warmer temperatures for Joe is definitely the key. That seems to be the move, not just going to where those fish were last week, but finding where they would have moved to as this water gets pushed around.
Absolutely. I mean, we on days that we fished 71 to 73 degrees in those southern grounds seem to have been where the action was. I'm going to just jump into one more. This one from Will Fakiti. Full report. This was 8:24. Left the dock at 3 a.m. and made our way towards Tuna Ridge. Got there and jig popped on some life for about 30 minutes. There was nothing going on, so we headed towards Suffolk. Water temperature was 68 degrees. We got to Suffolk, put out a spread, but it was the same deal. Plenty of life, plenty of boats, no fish. And the water at the Suffolk was 67 degrees. We then headed southeast to warmer water, found a patch of 70-degree water, put out our spread, and ended up going 4 for 4 on 50-pound yellows in about 2 hours. 2 on Joe Shoots, 2 on green bars. So what I take from both of those reports is move around. Like you're tuna fishing, you're hunting. So what they're doing is obviously jumping from life to life with an eye on the sounder to see what the water temperature readings are. And when that water jumps up, you find that, couple degree difference in water. That's when you're getting bit, whether it's on a popper or on the jigs or on trolling, as Will's reported. So that area has been largely hit or miss. Area.
Except for the mahi. Like the mahi fishing is just approaching its late summer, early fall peak. Mm-hmm. And don't head out there without some Albie type gear to catch the mahi. I know a lot of guys, like I said, it was the week of the mahi consolation prize. And also the Albie consolation prize out there, although they are a little bit, since you're not eating them or taking them home, it's a little bit less exciting to get those. But if you have the light Albie, light gear for the mahi, you catch a couple Albies on that.
Does pending state record get caught out of Rhode Island?
Correct, yeah. So the Albies out there have been big. I know there was a pending state record, trolled up, guy was tuna fishing, and the Albie came up and took his... I don't know if it was a spreader bar. I forget what it actually was. We've got the article on onthewater.com. I'll put the link in the description here. But so there are some really big Albies out there. It'd be pretty cool if those paddled in close to shore.
Yeah,
kayak
definitely.
And surf range.
Definitely. And last from that area, same, just outside of the Suffolk wreck, Uncle Duke got out on his birthday and
Sean
got it
Barnum,
done.
Yep.
Sean got it done with all yellowfin, couple on the jig, couple on top. So that's a fitting birthday present for that trip.
We didn't mention that all the reports we heard from the last couple of days, I'm pretty sure all of them were yellowfin. So that area all summer, since about late June, has been a mix of yellowfin and bluefin. So we'd have 50 to say 70-inch bluefin in the mix, and then yellowfin that were probably in the 40 to 50-inch range, 40 to 45-inch range. And the last couple of days after that little shakeup, guys found the yellowfin again, but I don't know what happened to the bluefin. I don't know where the bluefin got. Like that's the thing
Hopefully
about bluefin.
Hopefully they went east.
There's a good chance they went east. We're just about due for that east of Chatham fall, September, fire up when the butterfish get out there, other baits get out there. You see a resurgence in the topwater tuna activity at Crab Ledge, at Regal Sword. Haven't heard of that yet, but if the last few years are any indication, that should be coming.
Yeah, I've been keeping tabs on the Stellwagen area, Peaked Hill Bar area, north to Maine. I talked to Trevor from Saco Bay Tackle today. He said there's been a ton of surface feeds, but they're all 80-inch plus fish, mid-90-inch fish airing out. They're on herring and mackerel. He said there's been guys in all the typical inshore grounds. The better fishing has been a little north of Portland, and obviously it's been all catch and release because they're, commercial-sized fish, and, they're just drifting herring and mackerel on the lumps and the ridges and fishing the inshore structure. And commercial, I think, opens on September 3rd. So no wreck fish up that way. I checked in with Pete Belson from Belson's Bait and Tackle in Scituate. A lot of the same there. Been a lot of guys kind of playing with the Giants catch and release. However, the bait situation has been dire. There's no mackerel to speak of from what he reported, but the guys that are going out there with the hopes of having some fun with these bigger bluefin are catching like small little 3-pound, 4-pound bluefish right outside of the harbors in Scituate and Marshfield, and bringing those out there in the live well and getting tight on. No, it's a great tuna bait. So that's been a lot of the same. I hope that I haven't heard anything from half-beaks coming in to those waters at all, but hopefully we can count on a butterfish bite materializing out that way, and maybe that's where those bluefin that we're headed.
Yeah, you're right. Last year there was kind of a half-beak bite right around first week of September. Fish charged through on them. Year to year, those bait fish, the main bait fish changes. I mean, we had a couple of really strong half-beak years. Last year was only so we'll see what happens this year.
Yeah, with the sand eels.
It's been a good sand eel year, and sand eels, dude, they are the best bait. Yeah. They stay in one place. The fish love them.
They don't move too fast.
They don't move too fast, and it is just. If I could choose one bait for the fish to be on all season, I'd love it to be sand eels.
Mid-Atlantic's last day fishing today?
Yeah, so the Mid-Atlantic 500. Well, it's not the Mid-Atlantic 500,000 anymore. It was back then when the prize money was only 500,000. This year it's $5 million up for grabs in the Mid-Atlantic, and they've had, I guess, pretty good fishing. Thursday seemed like the day. That was the day that they really shuffled the leaderboards quite a bit. I know tuna, pretty good big eye tuna bite happened on Thursday down in those southern canyons. The billfish bite's been great. So while the White Marlin Open didn't have any qualifying white marlin weighed in, there have been whites up to 87 pounds weighed in for the Mid-Atlantic. There have been a number of fish qualifying. Now, they do have a smaller qualifying size at 65 pounds as opposed to 70 pounds for the White Marlin Open, but still there have been a number of 70-pound plus white marlin weighed in for the Mid-Atlantic. So some bigger white marlin showing up. Blue marlin up to almost 900 pounds. Yeah, I think the leader's like 878 or something.
It's crazy. I mean, literally a full mix. That weigh-in tracker is loaded with everything from tuna, billfish, mahi, obviously, wahoo, a little bit of everything in the southern canyons. Coming back to the scales at that tournament, and today's the last day of fishing. I think Trashy Thoughts, as of close of weigh-in yesterday, is in the lead, but who knows with how hot that fishing's been. This is going to be interesting end to what's been a tournament with a lot of action, which is great to see.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And also down in that region, New Jersey. 40 to 50 miles off, that yellowfin bite's still going, still on jigs. And one of the reports we got from Fisherman's Supply down in Point Pleasant was that larger profile jigs were getting more bites. I remember a couple years ago I was going out there. I went out there a couple times, and it was always like the smallest
streakers.
Like your 80 gram, 120 gram streaker jigs. Like that was what you needed to get the bite on. This year, I mean, up and down, all the way up to the vineyards, like 200 gram. Like get that jig down fast. And that seems to be the case down there on those yellowfin off New Jersey as well. Like I said, 40 to 50 mile range on the wrecks and the ridges out there. In close off Jersey, still that inshore bluefin bite on live squid. I know one boat fought an 80 incher for a while, got that to the boat, and then had to release it. But there have been a number of recreational sized fish still being caught. Again, man, this hurricane is going to really shuffle the deck when it comes through. It looks like it's right now all the tracks have it going offshore, but it's still going to throw a lot of wind and a lot of waves at us. And when we're able to get back out there, who knows? Things could be a little shakeup after the fishing this week would not be the worst thing.
No, actually, I'll take a reshuffled deck and hope for a little bit, more of a consistent zone. It seems like it's really kind of broken apart and been hard to kind of count on. So,
this is our last report for August. September is always it's an incredible month, but the weather is always pretty unsettled for it. So if you can get out, the fishing's it's bound to be good. You're going to see the bluefin fishing probably pick up east of Cape Cod again. The canyon fishing is definitely going to fire back up. So lots of great fishing ahead.
What are your favorite jigs? Run through your favorite jig styles real quick. Just since it's been such a popular way of targeting the tuna lately. What do you like to roll with?
So it depends, man.
What's in your jig bag?
I really like the Point Jude deep force jigs for getting down quick. If you're in deeper water or the boat's really drifting, that 9 ounce or 11 ounce Point Jude deep force is a great one, but that's a pretty big profile. That's not really a sand eel matching profile.
Yep.
I know that's the favorite jig of Captain Dom Petrarca from Coastal Charters. That's like his go-to jig, and he's not worried so much about matching the hatch with that as far as he is just like putting something that looks edible in front of these fish, get it flashing around down there. Yep. I also really like the Shimano Shimmerfall jig in that 210 gram size. It is like a perfect match of a sand eel. They've got the sand eel color down to the scale pattern. Like that is for finicky fish. That thing, you're not going to get any closer looking to a sand eel than that.
I've done very well with those on pretty much all colors too. Big fan of those ones. The Point Judes are great.
The Chatter Lures streaker jig was one we used with Captain Rob Taylor of Newport Sport Fishing Charters last week. He's been using that all season, and that's also a 210, maybe a 200 gram size. And it's more compact. So where the Shimano 210 is a very long, slender jig, this one's a little bit bulkier, a little more compact. Gets down there really fast, and we caught a mess of tuna on it. So.
Yeah, those look really good. I haven't fished those yet. I'm dying to play with those. The Nomad Streaker's been another one that is deserving in that. And then last is kind of one of the OGs. The Shimano Butterfly, the original Shimano Butterfly jigs.
Yeah, now it's called the Monarch is what they call it. So they kind of rebranded it.
90 gram range. Like I've done well with that smaller profile, and in Chartreuse Glow, that has been my south of the vineyard jig for a couple seasons, and then I kind of went to that slim profile between the streakers and the Shimmerfalls and fell in love with those, as well as the Point Judes.
A couple years ago, and it started in New Jersey when they had those big jigging bites with the fish on sand eels, those Nomad streakers. They were the only slender sand eel. Now we have a bunch of them. That's what happens is one jig gets hot, then a bunch of other companies put out their version. But the Nomad streakers were the first ones, and you couldn't find one. You couldn't find one in a good size or color. As soon as you got to mid-July, they were sold out everywhere. That's how hot those jigs were. Luckily now we've got a lot more options.
Another one that's kind of a tweener has been the Sleek Jig from Joe Baggs. I've heard of a lot of people doing really well with multiple different styles of jigging. The speed jigging, as well as kind of like a slower presentation just off the bottom. Those jigs have caught a lot of fish in that, that Tuna Ridge, Suffolk area. So, that's a good mix. It's going to give you a bunch of different size options, a bunch of different profiles. So if you want to give jigging a try, I'd start there.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us on this week's Offshore Report. Hopefully, we'll have more firsthand stuff next week because I badly need to get out. And unless you have anything else, Jim.
I'm all set.